Hey y'all, I've been out of the way a little bit, but I wanted to share this message with y'all the day before we do our trivia giveaway. Again, always invite all. Hit the three little dots at the top, and then I think it says invite friends, and then invite all, and you can invite everybody on your friends list. My main thing is I want us to have fun. Hopefully, if you're watching this, you can win a prize. If not, there is definitely going to be a next time. We're cooking up so many things behind the scenes, you have no clue. So anyway, today we're talking about nice guys finish last. And that is to say that you can't be so nice that you compromise your standards as God's child. A lot of times there are people around us who indulge in things that aren't good for us. Like some people can I don't know. I can't think of a really good example, but you can't be so nice and willing to be around people who are doing certain types of things that you know you shouldn't be doing, who are indulging in a lifestyle that you know you can't be a part of, people who I don't know, whatever the case may be. You can't be so nice to them that you compromise your own standards as God's child. And then the second point that I wrote down is that I only have 2 points. Everything else is, I have 3 biblical references, and then I have 2 proverbs, and that's going to be that. I'm going to get some sleep so we can get it cracking tomorrow. So the second point that I wrote down is that you can be polite and kindly dismiss yourself. Like, you don't have to be all up in arms. And actually, I think at least 2 out of 3 of my examples were not necessarily an angry response, at least not the way they were documented. So my first example is Job. A lot of you guys have heard the story of Job. You're familiar with the story of Job. If you're not, I do encourage you to go and give it a gander. I even know a guy who calls himself Job due to some of the things that, you know what I mean, he's been through. One of my kids are coming. Hold on. My daughter cooked tonight. She was letting me know dinner was ready. So I know a guy who calls himself Job due to some of the things that he's been through. In the book of Job, chapter 2, verse 9, it says, I paraphrased here. It says his wife told him to curse God and die. This is after everything happened, which is very interesting because Job is a pretty long book in the Bible. And when his kids passed away, I think at this point he had gotten the boils, but his kids had passed away. He had lost a lot already in chapter 1. So his wife told him to curse God and die, and his response was that she was speaking like a foolish woman. That's not necessarily a nice thing to say, but it is a true thing to say. You sound foolish to tell me to curse God and die. You know what I mean? You can't always be nice, because sometimes nice means that you end up in places, in atmospheres, in social circles that you have no business in, that you're set apart from, that you're not supposed to be in, and you're well aware of it. But you would rather be nice, and nice guys finish last, and we don't want you finishing last. As a family, I want us to all be running up, holding hands, and whatever the case may be, I want us to all make it. And I don't want you finishing last. I don't want me finishing last. My second example is kind of funny. This is the one out of the 3 that may or may not have been considered nice. Mark chapter 2, verse 2 through 12 is where the 4 friends had their paralyzed friend, and around the town there was a lot of buzz about Jesus being there, and the 4 friends couldn't get their paralyzed friend through the door, but they wanted Jesus to lay hands on him and to heal him and to make him walk. So what they did was they carried this paralyzed man up to the roof. They tore the roof up and lowered the man down towards Jesus. Sometimes you have to take it by force. Sometimes it has to be taken by force. Good things do come to those who wait. I don't know how biblical that is, but in some cases you do have to take it by force. And they carried the man up to the roof, tore the roof up, lowered the man down near Jesus. Jesus heals the man. The people had something to say. because of something that he said about forgiveness. Like, who is he to say they're forgiven? He's not God. Whoop the bam, skippity dee bop. It's actually a really good story. And finally, last but certainly, definitely not least, is the book of Daniel. And I want to say specifically chapters 1 through 5. And which is what is interesting about this is that a lot of us heard the story of Daniel, but it's usually in the lion's den. The lion's den doesn't happen until chapter 6. There's an instance where Daniel refuses to eat the food of the king. There's another instance where Daniel and his boys, who y'all know as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, which I do encourage you to look up the meaning of those names. Their real names were Azariah, Ishmael. I forget the last one's names, but the last one's name. But those guys and Daniel, who the king had also given Daniel another name, they refused to bow down to a statue that King Nebuchadnezzar had built, and yeah, they stood 10 toes for God, like somebody I know, and everything was working out for them. But they unapologetically, and the thing that about Daniel was that he was polite enough that the gentleman who was appointed over them was saying that he would get in trouble if they didn't accept what the king had sent them to eat and drink. So instead of being all up in arms, being riled up, Daniel tells him, okay, so give us a 10-day trial, just give us vegetables and water, and give these other guys, who the book highlights that the other guys were a youth like them, kind of like King David, like they were around 14, 15, 16, which really highlights when you become a man. But anyway, because we really should be getting on top of our boys about being upstanding men when they're at these tender ages, not wait until they're 18, 19 and telling them you're too old not to be. No, biblically speaking, around the age of 12, 13, 14 is when they become a man, when they actually get out in the field. So what you're putting into them, those first 12 years do matter. Anyway, so he told them, give us 10 days and we're gonna have our vegetables and our water, give those guys the king's food and the king's meat and the king's wine. So he did that, and he agreed with them, and it turned out that the three Hebrew boys and Daniel actually got more fat, and they looked a lot more healthy than the guys who had eaten the king's food. There was another instance is when they threw them into the fire, which is just a very interesting story about standing 10 toes about God. And yeah, so that's that. Four friends carried their paralyzed friend on the roof toward the roof and lowered them near Jesus. So yeah, so the two proverbs that I have is Proverbs 22 and 24 through 25. Make no friendship with an angry man, and with a furious man thou shalt not go. 25, lest thou learn his ways and get a snare to thy soul. So, and that's written a lot of times. The Israelites were warned against this. The Israelites were somewhat of a rebellious people. One of the things that they were warned about was beginning to worship a god from the people that they chose to be in community with. And there's many scriptures about who you should and should not be in fellowship with, or engaged with, or in friendships with. This does not mean that you're rude to people who don't believe the same thing as you. In fact, sometimes those people who do supposedly believe the same thing as you be the very people you have to distance yourself from. So this is not about a separation or segregation or being mean to people who have not heard the good news, who don't believe the good news, who may not have the same gifts as you. This is not about discrimination or segregation or anything like that. This is about people who spiritually practice things that you know you need not be around. People who do things that you know you need not be around. Make no friendship with an angry man, and with a furious man thou shalt not go, lest thou learn his ways and get a snare to thy soul. Again, that's Proverbs 22, 24 through 25. Then I also, I have 3 scriptures. It's in the same, it's not Proverbs 13 and 20, which says, whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. Just give me just a minute. 1 Corinthians 15 and 33. Do not be deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners, which many of us has probably heard that as bad company corrupts good character. But biblically speaking, and I specifically went to the King James, it says, do not be deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners. Give me 1 second. Okay. So that was 1 Corinthians 15 and 33. Do not be deceived. Evil communications. Don't make me go into, you know what I mean, the power of your phone that you hold in your hand every day, aka your tracking device, aka your leash, aka your master, because when it whistles, you like a dog. But we're not going to get into that. Evil communications could be a text message. Evil communications could be a comment on your picture. Evil communications could be a phone call, a video call. Evil communications corrupt good manners. Have you ever noticed sometimes after you talk to somebody, you find yourself not being as polite, so to speak, or mild-mannered as you normally would be? Evil communications corrupt good manners. And what precedes that is the words, do not be deceived. Don't think that this is just, I feel bad for her because she's lonely, so I'm going to talk to her on the phone. That's my boy. He going through a lot, so do not be deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners. And that's that. And the other proverb that I have is Proverbs 13 and 20. Whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. I already read that one. I just realized that. But what we hear a lot of times is if you hang around with 5 millionaires, you'll be the sixth. And that's essentially the same thing. Whoever walks with the wise become wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. We cannot be so nice. We cannot be so apologetic. We cannot be so leaning, so lukewarm, so backsliding, so undisciplined, so lacking self-control that we compromise our own standards and where we're supposed to be, who we are supposed to be, and how we're supposed to conduct ourselves, things that we are and are not supposed to indulge in. Nice guys finish last, and we don't want to be finishing last after we ran this whole race. This is not, let's not act like this is an easy race to run. Let's not act like this is an easy way of life. But nice guys finish last. If you be nice about that, you must go about your Father's business. You sometimes have to be unapologetic. Well, no, not sometimes, always unapologetic. But sometimes you can't be so nice that you're compromising your own standards. Or as y'all like to say, blocking your blessings. I'm not worried about no material things. My thing is, I want to be upright before God. I want to hear, well done, my good and faithful servant. That's what I want. And that sometimes has caused me to have to cut people off. Or, relationships fade because, no, I'm not going out to party like that no more. No, I'm not finna go do that with you no more. No. That's not what we do no more. Unapologetically. Nice guys finish last. I love y'all so much. I look forward to the trivia tomorrow.